You can start whenever you're ready.
My name is Paula Champagne, and I'm a visual storyteller currently living in Somerville.
Nice. Yeah, that works. That's a good intro. So we like to start interviews with the first question. Are you hood grown? And if so, how does that influence your aesthetic?
I am not from Somerville, so I'm not hood grown in the Massachusetts sense.
Mhm.
I moved here about 10 years ago. I'm originally from a suburb of Chicago. I don't know that it influences where I'm from, it influences what I do, but I think there's no way of it not influencing it a little bit. But I think I haven't identified it. I've felt that I've come into my own more as an artist in Massachusetts. I've spent more time being connected to nature, which is a lot of my work.
Awesome. So before we get into the nitty gritty of like your artwork, just like a check-in, how are you feeling? How are you coping? How are you caring for yourself right now? Obviously the world is shit right now for so many reasons, especially for us as Black folks. Like that's just, there's so many layers of shit happening. So how are you coping?
Not well.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is, so it's fine.
It's been a terrible year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been emotionally and mentally and physically like one of the worst years of my life. It sounds very dramatic, but it feels true. It just is very overwhelming. But it's also been great for my career. So it's been a weird thing, a weird combination of things. But I started freelancing full time this year.
Oh wow.
And I was working constantly. I have been working pretty much constantly. And so I finally took a break. For 3 whole weeks, I did not, for the most part, I didn't even answer emails except for a couple. But I didn't do work and it felt great. And that is my best way of taking care of myself, is taking breaks. Try to spend some time in nature, but the combination, important.
Yeah, for sure. Breaks are very necessary to clear the minds, for you to open up and make more beautiful art. But you're talking a little bit about your connection to nature and your relationship to nature. Can we talk about that and talk about your connection to nature through your aesthetics and your interests? Because your illustrations, man, oh man, you can feel that connection to not only like the human aspect and the figures that you create, but there is also that layer of nature that is in pretty much all of your illustrations. So can we talk about that relationship? Why is it in your work? How do you incorporate that in your work?
Yeah, I've always had a strong connection to nature, but I think I haven't identified it really since probably, I think I started to identify it maybe 5-6 years ago, because I don't know, I never considered myself outdoorsy per se, but I've been trying to unpack and like deconstruct what that even means, and it's like a loaded racist term. So I'm trying to like take back what it means to be outdoorsy and what it means to be connected to nature, and not necessarily an extreme way. Like I don't count all the peaks that I climb or like that sort of thing. Like I kind of reject that kind of outdoorsy, like extreme thing, but I have found it to be very restorative, and I think that I'm trying to reclaim that in my work for Black folks. I think we need it more than anything. We need restoration, and so it's particularly messed up that a connection to nature has been socially reserved for white people. It's like, we need them more than y'all, actually. So I'm taking it back.
That's beautiful. And you've done this not only with your illustrations, but you have this beautiful photography series about kind of like how Black and brown people are like hiking and doing nature-y things. And it's just so beautiful to see like a bunch of beautiful Black and brown folks like just in nature, where we were kind of first. Like, I don't understand. Like,
Not even kind of. We were
we
the
were,
first backpackers. I know
yeah.
that. We had to run away.
Right.
Yeah. So I have explored that on my own, but I also have had a couple of gigs where it was my job to capture people in the outdoors, and so I was working at Appalachian Mountain Club for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is interesting, but
Yeah.
I'm glad to be working on my own terms now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that a lot from freelance artists. It's always great when you can choose your own projects. um, can we talk a little bit about your connection to storytelling through photography and videography? Because you do have like these great mini series that you did through your time at BU, I believe. Am I correct? Yeah.
Close
Oh,
enough.
BC. Sorry. Yeah,
No,
they they intertwine. I always forget which one is which.
no offense, even a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But how is that different or similar to your work with illustration? And what came first? Did you fall in love with videography and photography first, or did you get your hands on drawing and illustration first?
Drawing came first. As a little kid, I was always drawing and like cooking up some sort of idea where I was drawing and like making stories and stuff. So that came first, and photography and video have been more of an interest in the last now I guess 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
um, I really love in video and photography to really just like be a reflection of the person that I am like capturing. Um, I like you'll probably see most of my photography work is like candids. I prefer to kind of just like capture the true reflection of a person and showcase them in that way. And my video work is mostly nowadays documentary style. So it's just getting people to speak in their true forms and like reflecting their true selves. So that's kind of how I look at storytelling in those mediums. And I think my illustration work has been more a reflection of how I'm feeling, less of a reflection of reality.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. So I think it is really interesting to like see, I guess, how different your work is when you describe it like that. Because when I was looking at like your photography and videography, like there is a similarity when I think about like color palette, for
Yeah.
instance. Um, and I'm gonna like skip through, I'm gonna jump around our questions a bit. Sorry about that. But how would you describe your color palette?
I've call it, it's muted, but it's also vibrant in a
Mm-hmm.
way. It's very earthy. Whenever I'm doing illustration work, I usually pull my color palette directly from like nature, colors found in nature. So nothing is too vibrant, but it's, yeah, that's
Nice.
kind of how I like to describe it. And it's similar in the photography. Like I don't make the contrast super high. I keep it
Mm-hmm.
pretty muted.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
almost like it almost feels like muted gem tones. Like
Mm,
they're like really strong. Like gem tones are always like really bold, but like almost like there's a film over them. It's I love all of the all of your color palettes that you choose. So I always make a point to ask about color palettes when there is beautiful color being used. As a color theorist and someone who's super into this stuff, I'm like, yes, I need to talk.
I love it.
So what got you into graphic design and illustration? I know you said that you were drawing since you were a kid, but what kind of made you go more towards the digital realm? And how did you develop this illustration style that feels so much like a signature to you now?
Mm. I got into graphic design mostly because I was told as a child that it wasn't practical to be a fine artist.
Mhm.
So it was like, this is how you make money.
I should have listened to that.
Yeah.
I never learned how to use computers. That's why I teach art. Like, that's the best I can do.
So I sold my soul and I did it. But I mostly work with nonprofits or small businesses for the
Hmm.
most part. Or if it's a bigger brand, it has to be something
So
really
you're buying your soul back.
exactly, just like dollar by dollar. I'm
Yeah.
trying. So that's kind of how I chose that. But also I've learned that it's not even true. Like you can make a decent living off of being a fine artist,
Hmm.
but that is kind of the route that I took. And then developing my style, I pretty much didn't have a style until 3 years ago. And I kind of had a breakthrough. Um,
Hmm.
I was more of a like realistic artist, like a slightly impressionistic, but more realistic. I like the color palettes weren't particularly interesting. I didn't
Hmm.
really have a focus of what I was trying. I wasn't really trying to say anything. It was more just like drawing what I saw, and kind of had a breakthrough really working at Appalachian Mountain Club and dealing with some like some sobering sort of ways that Black folks are excluded from the way that being an outdoorsy person or a nature person is marketed.
Hmm.
Um, and so like dealing with that and also like the community that is around like hiking community, which is mostly white. Uh,
Hmm.
and just wanted to put into my art how that made me feel. And so I knew that like I wanted to kind of communicate this like kind of brokenness, but also how the being in nature is restoring that, um, and how and like the resilience is kind of like the sun haloed sun behind the figures that I have reflected. So like,
Hmm.
that was kind of the spark, and it's kind of evolved a little bit, but it hasn't been long that I've really settled into my style, but it feels good. I feel like it's felt the most me in the
Yeah.
last years. Mm-hmm.
It's always great when just art feels right, when it just feels right coming out. So that's kudos to you. I love that. So talking a little bit more about your particular like illustration series, you Black women and womanhood is often like the center of your work,
Mm-hmm.
particularly your series Women Behind the Movement and Black Women in History. Why are these images so important for you to make?
I think it's mostly because I'm a Black woman, and so I didn't see myself in a lot of things,
Mhm.
in a lot of celebrations of people, and so I just putting out work that I would have wished that I saw as a child.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why I try to center mostly Black women or Black femmes, Black folks, but mostly the feminine energy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely needed, especially
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
Um, so you're a videographer, a photographer, a designer, an illustrator. Do you find your mediums overlapping at all, or do you find that your stories want to explore more ways to be told, like through different mediums? Do you think that, I don't know, is it you that thinks that, or is it you feel like the content is like telling you to go a certain direction?
Mm. Um, I think I've been finding. I mean, well, they all have similar foundations, and like like you need to the composition, or like there's so
Mhm.
many things that there's a foundation that applies to all of those mediums. And I have been trying in the last few years to kind of merge the content all across the mediums to all be a reflection of this celebration of Black folks and embracing the restoration of nature. So yeah, they've been crossing a lot uh, in a lot of ways, and even I've been uh, I've been doing some animation, so that's been kind of a perfect bridge between my illustration skills and graphic design skill sets and video. So I've been finding that like literal bridge that has been, it's also felt really right. And so that's been exciting.
That is really exciting. I haven't heard many people that are like, I just tried animation and it's great. Like, most people like, what the fuck is this? How do these work?
It's incredibly time consuming.
Yeah.
It's like, did I just spend all day making a leg move?
Yeah, I remember my foundation year of college and they forced me to take some design classes. And I was like, guys, I've been at this computer screen for 2 weeks and all my butterfly did was spit. Like, like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
It's so much work, but
it's a lot of work.
Again, kudos to you if it feels right. That's awesome.
It's just like really rewarding to me, especially when it's done. But
yeah,
it feels right.
Yeah. Well, it's been great speaking to you.
Likewise.
Last question, really. What's next for you in your work?
I will be doing a couple of murals, which is exciting.
Ooh.
I've never done a mural before. In fact, I haven't touched real paint in a couple of years, so I'm kind of like, but excited. I also am going to be doing some more animation work. I have some bigger projects coming up, so I'm excited.
Yeah. We're excited. We'll keep an eye on that and definitely let our listeners know all about your projects. I'm excited to see your beautiful images take off from the screen and go on to a giant wall. So that's really exciting. Okay, well, real last question. Where can the people find you in your work?
I have an Instagram, Maker Champ, and it's mostly because Paula Champagne was taken. I was like, well, I make a lot of different things, and my last name is Champagne. Champ means like champion of or something, so.
I thought it was a really cool Instagram handle when I saw it, and then I was like, oh, like after I saw your name, I was like, oh, I guess that's her name. Oh, I get it. Like I was just like, Maker Champ, yeah, champion of maker.
Yeah. It works for it all.
Yeah.
And I also have a website, paulachampagne.com, and that has more of my other mediums, not just
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and thanks for taking some time to speak to me about your work.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Of course.